Hey everybody, how's it going? All of us around these parts know that Magic sets are like those hella fresh food subscriptions. You'll try them out. They come once a month. You swear you'll stop paying for them after this one. And they come with all this extra bullshit, like what's all this, commons and kale? While I was looking through Scryfall, as I do, listening to predator catching videos, not realizing how bad they sound from outside my room.
Bro sent not only a glizzy pic, but a glizzy video, man.
I realized there were a shocking amount of cards that came out last year that I completely didn't even notice. With a total of 9 sets, 5 of which had their own Commander precons, there was 14 total new sets that gave us 2,611 new cards last year. So don't blame me for missing a few of them, alright? Especially out of some of the weirder sets like Clue or the Commander precons, because I know that much like I'm sure many of you, I'm not buying every single precon. I narrowed it down to up to 3 cards per set that I missed, as we could be here all day if I just showed you every single card I missed from last year. But links are available below for the Scryfall searches I use to look through these sets if you want to go hunting on your own. Timestamps below if you want to skip to a certain set. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and let's get into it. The first set on the roster is Murders at Karlov Manor that came out February 9th of 2024, and the first card on our list is Analyze the Pollen. For 1 green at sorcery speed, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may collect Evidence 8, which is to exile cards with total mana value 8 or greater from your graveyard. Search your library for a basic land card. If evidence was collected, instead search your library for a creature or land card. Reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. This is a fantastic card, honestly. If you've got enough CMC in the grave, this thing's just a Sylvan Tutor with a land tutor stapled onto it, which is, really gross, especially in something like Necrobloom. That deck's all about lands, milling yourself. A perfect fit for this card. One of those cards I probably read the first time and was like, nah, it's not for me. You only get to look for a land, and didn't finish reading it. So check it out. World Soul's Rage is our second card from Murders at Karlov Manor. For X, a red and a green, we get a sorcery speed. World Soul's Rage deals X damage to any target. Put up to X target lands from your hand or graveyard onto the battlefield. Talk about an ender in a Lands Matter deck. Lord Windgrace plus this thing is not only a ton of damage, but a ton of ETBs, which when you have stuff like Scute Swarm in play can get super out of hand. This seems like a great way to bring home games, especially if you have trouble taking out all 3 opponents at once. This could take out the straggler. Lands from hand, grave, stapled onto a fireball. Love it. My third and final missed card from Murders at Karlov Manor is Wojek Investigator. For 2 and a white, we get a 2/4 Flying Vigilance. At the beginning of your upkeep, investigate once for each opponent who has more cards in hand than you. I really like this card. It's probably going to go into my Carador deck, as it's a super small creature toolbox deck, and this really small creature that provides a very good utility can easily slot into there, and the card draw it provides is going to be good in that deck because with all the small CMC, it's easy to play my whole hand and end up with little to no cards in it. And who knows, this might go into my Alesha Who Smiles at Death deck. That's right, I'm finally making her. Finally pulled the trigger on that metaphorical revolver that is that deck. Moving on to Murders at Karlov Manor Commander that came out February 9th, 2024. Our first card from this set is On the Trail. On the Trail is 1 and a green for an enchantment. Whenever you draw your second card each turn, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. This card's nuts, man. I really like this thing a ton. None of my commanders can utilize it though, which is a bummer. But commanders like Xyrus the Writhing Storm and AC, who can guarantee card draw, and in the case of AC, loves us playing lands, this thing could really pop off. Drawing more cards means you might have more lands in your hand. More cards means you're gonna have to discard. You'll probably end up discarding those lands anyway. Having something in your hand that lets you just play them seems good. This can also trigger during opponent's turns, so if you're investigating, pretty easy way to get 2 draws during opponent's turns. Get this in your Simic decks. I like it. Our second card from Murders at Karlov Manor Commander is Detective of the Month. Detective of the Month is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 with Ascend. If you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. As long as you have the City's Blessing, detectives you control can't be blocked. Whenever you draw your second card, create a 2/2 white and blue detective token. I like it. You know me, I like powerful token engines. This could easily slot into the aforementioned Xyrus the Writhing Storm deck alongside some Impact Tremor effects, and the built-in unblockable effect could easily just be a win con at a certain point in the game. Adding this to the token engines list, don't worry. Also, check out that video on the top right if you haven't already. Moving on to the third and final card from Murders at Karlov Manor Commander, which is Innocuous Researcher. For 3 and a green, we get a 3/4. Whenever Innocuous Researcher attacks, each player reveals the top card of their library. For each non-land card revealed this way, you investigate, then each player draws a card. At the beginning of your end step, you may untap all lands you control. If you do, you can't cast spells until your next turn. I think this is a great card draw engine in any creature-based list, honestly. On top of being a way to have lands open during your opponent's turns, sure, we can't cast stuff with it. That doesn't stop us from using it to crack our clues or activate the abilities of our permanents in play, like Staff of Domination, for instance. This also opens us up to being political at the table. as we're providing a little bit of card draw for everybody. Moving on to the next official set, Ravnica Clue Edition. This is a set that is very easy to have looked over, because I didn't know it existed till like a month after it came out. The first card from this set being Aftermath Insurance. For 1 and a hybrid Orzhov at instant speed, creatures you control gain Afterlife 1 until end of turn, and you draw a card. I was shown this one on live stream, and I was blown away by how powerful the effect was. The ability to make every creature on our side into a doomed traveler, essentially, is insane. Especially in an aristocrat build alongside sack outlets like Ashnod's Altar. That's a lot of mana. Even just in reaction to a board wipe, this is really good. I'm definitely going to pick one of these up, as should you. If your LGS doesn't have it, don't blame them. It's a really niche, weird set. Just order one online. It was also really strong because the next card is Conclave Evangelist, and this thing's kinda nutty. For 3 and 2 Selesnya, we get a 4/4 with Myriad, which means whenever it attacks, for each opponent, create a token that's tapped and attacking that opponent. Whenever Conclave Evangelist deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of Conclave Evangelist. Yeah, this makes an insane amount of tokens, especially if you're in the token deck and you've got cards like Doubling Season that'll double your token production. Normally with no doublers, you swing at one opponent, you make 2 tokens. If they smack, you create 2 more tokens. But with the doubler, you swing, you create 2 tokens from the Myriad, which actually makes 2 more tokens from your doubler. And then when the 2 Myriad ones that are tapped and attacking smack face, you'll create 4 more, leaving you with a total of 6 tokens plus the original Conclave Evangelist. If my math is mathin', they can swing next turn. It gets really out of hand. And with that many 4/4s with Myriad and token doublers in play, that's some math I really just don't feel like doing. This is a really awesome ender. I really like this. I really like the idea of smoking someone with this thing, not to even mention a Nihilist with something like Warstorm Surge in play. Nasty work. Moving on to our third and final card of Ravnica Clue Edition, we've got Dimir Strandcatcher for 2 and 2 hybrid Dimir. At 3/3 with flying, whenever you attack, surveil X, where X is the number of opponents being attacked. At the beginning of each end step, if 3 or more cards were put into your graveyard from anywhere other than your battlefield this turn, draw a card. This just feels good, you know what I mean? In the right deck, it doesn't have to attack, just anything has to attack for it to trigger. So if you've got some unblockable creatures or just some fodder you can throw at somebody, it'll trigger. Plus, its own surveil trigger will also trigger its draw, which is nice. Definitely goes into a deck like Glarb, where it's just like surveilling anyway, putting stuff from your deck directly into grave as a nice little draw engine. Moving on to Fallout, which came out March 8th of 2024, with the first card being Inventory Management. And I know exactly why I missed this one. It's my least favorite color combo. My eyes kind of glaze over when I see Boros. But I have to say, this is very good. And a couple more cards like this may make me want to build a Voltron list, but we're not there yet. Swing with your commander while it's small to activate your access tunnel to make it unblockable, then cast this to throw all your stuff on it while it's unblockable, or just throw all your stuff onto a lifelinker like Danitha, or a creature that could benefit from a large power like Elandra's Hierophant. I don't know, I really like this effect, and Split Second makes it really good, almost a game ender in the right Voltron list in my opinion. Our second card from Fallout is Watchful Radstag. For 2 and a green, we get a 2/2 with Evolve. Whenever Watchful Radstag evolves, create a token that's a copy of it. This one's just cool. I feel like it could be a really good win con in the right deck. Get out of hand really quick. Also, pairing this with Master Biomancer and something like Tyrannid Prime, as explained on this Reddit post, can lead to an infinite Radstag cycle, which is great if you have a way to stop this loop. Our third and final card from Fallout is Armory Paladin. And again, Boros. Of course I missed it. For 1, a red and a white, we get a 3/3 trample. Whenever you cast an aura or equipment spell, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until the end of your next turn. This feels like an Enchantress's cooler cousin, like the one that comes to Thanksgiving and walks with you and smokes a doobie. The impulse draw is also really nice in certain decks, especially ones like Nahiri Forged of Fury that are all about playing spells from exile and equipments. This just seems like a really good draw package if you're in the right list. Next. Up next, we got Outlaws of Thunder Junction that came out April 19th of last year, and with this set, I honestly only missed one card. I really went through the spoilers over and over and over again. I was really excited about this set. Assimilation Aegis. You'll notice there aren't very many mythic rares on this list, and that's because my 8 brain sees that red symbol and just looks at it immediately on spoilers. Somehow, I completely missed this. For 1, a white and a blue, we get an equipment that equips for 2. When it enters, exile target creature until it leaves. When it becomes attached to a creature, the creature it's attached to becomes a copy of the creature card exiled with it. Being removal that turns your creatures into copies. That's super cool. This just seems like a good piece of removal in a creature-based deck, or equipment deck, or, you know, pretty much anything. Just turn your Voltron Commander into a other thing. Not much to say here. Really cool card. Genuinely shocked I missed it. Moving on from Outlaws of Thunder Junction to the Commander set that came out with it. My first card that I completely missed from the precons was Dune Chanter. For 2 and a green, we get a 2/3 with Reach. Lands you control and land cards you own that aren't on the battlefield are deserts in addition to their other types. Lands you control have tap, Add 1 mana of any color, tap it, mill 2 cards. You gain 1 life for each land milled this way. I feel like this card was a victim to labels, man. I bet so many people labeled this as a desert card deck when it's just a powerful ass card. This is going into Carador for sure. Mana fixing, self-mill, and reach. This thing's really freaking cool. Even if you're not touching the second ability with a 50-foot pole, which I'm not, this card's fantastic. Definitely picking one of these up. Not to even mention, if you're in the desert deck, go wild. Our next card from Outlaws of Thunder Junction Commander is Thunderclap Drake for 1 and a blue. It's a 2/1 with flying. Instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Pay 2 and a blue, sacrifice it. When you cast your next instant or sorcery, copy it for each time you've cast your commander from the command zone. Yeah, clearly the general public already knows how cool this card is by the price and the amount of decks it's in. I guess I'm a little late to the club on this one. For such a cheap cost, a flyer with a cost reducer and a potential game warping activated ability is incredibly strong, especially when paired with cheaper CMC commanders or commanders with cost reducers you plan to play multiple times. Like, I don't know, Cassiger maybe? This thing's awesome. I love 2 and 3 drop creatures with cool abilities, man. I cannot get enough of them. Speaking of which, Tower Winder is our final card for Outlaws of Thunder Junction Commander, and I don't know how I missed this thing. For 1 and a green, we get a 1/1 Reach Death Touch. Already sold, already going into Carador. Sorry. When Tower Winder enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a card named Command Tower. And put it into your hand. This is my favorite card on the list. How did I miss a snake with Reach and Death Touch that tutors up Command Tower? This is perfect in Carador. The best chump blocker in the world, and it comes with a bonus. Great card, honestly. I'm a huge fan of little snakes with Reach and Death Touch, and this by far is the best one. The next set that came out last year was Modern Horizons 3 on June 14th of 2024, with our first card being Sowing Mycospawn. Sowing Mycospawn? I don't know. For 3 and a green, we get a 3/3 with Devoid, Kicker for 1 and a waste. When you cast this spell, search your library for a land card and put it onto the battlefield. When you cast this spell, if it was kicked, exile target land. This feels like the definitive replacement for Solemn Simulacrum if you're in green. You lose the draw on death trigger, but you gain 1 power, 1 toughness, the option to exile a problem land, and the land you tutor comes into play on turn. And it doesn't have to be basic. Not a lot to say about this one. Great piece of removal and ramp. Like I said about the other card, the general MTG public has realized this card is good. I'm late to the party. And I forgot to mention, I only found 2 cards in this set that I wasn't familiar with, which is kind of shocking, but I realized that a lot of the stuff I wasn't familiar with was actually from Modern Horizons 3 Commander, which we'll get into. Our second and final card from Modern Horizons 3 base set, however, is Archway of Innovation, being a land that enters the battlefield untapped if you control an island, taps for an island. You can pay 1 blue and tap it. The next spell you cast this turn has Improvise. I think this land just got outshined by the other ones in my mind. I really didn't care about the red one. The green one was so freaking good, and I kind of glazed over the other two. Didn't even really read or notice the blue one somehow. And with all the clues, treasures, and foods all over the place, this card is sure to slot into a ton of really strong decks. I know it's going to go into my cousin's Brea deck. I almost didn't put it on the list. Here you go. Moving on to Modern Horizons 3 Commander, with our first card being Borrowgoyf. Borrowgoyf is 2 and a black for a star/1+star. Yeah, just let me finish the card. Death Touch, Lifelink. Borrowgoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in all graveyards, and its toughness is equal to that number +1. Whenever Borrowgoyf deals combat damage to a player, you may mill that many cards. If you do, you may put a creature card from among the milled cards into your hand. Again, Carador. I already run Ripples of Undeath, and it's one of my favorite cards in there. This is kind of Ripples of Undeath on creature that scales. That's small. The next card from MH3 Commander is Chittering Dispatcher, being 2 and a green for a 2/3 with Devoid and Myriad. Whenever Chittering Dispatcher leaves the battlefield, create a 0/1 spawn that you can sack for a waste. Now, this doesn't seem great, because you're like, how am I going to get rid of it? Well, the Myriad tokens are going to leave the battlefield at the end of turn, which will give you 2 of the spawns. So as long as you're attacking with this thing, you're getting 2 of those spawns each turn. And that's not even to mention, like we said with the other Myriad card, if you're in the token deck that's running token doublers, your Myriad tokens are also going to get doubled. And that's not even to mention the 0/1 spawns you're going to get, which will also get doubled. I'm honestly considering this one for Carador, I'm not going to lie. Our third and final card for MH3 Commander is Infested Thrynax, being 3, a black and a green for a 4/4 with Flash. When it enters the battlefield, until end of turn, whenever a non-token creature we control dies, create a number of 1/1 green Saproling creature tokens equal to its power. Yeah, you don't just make one, it's equal to its power. This is kind of gross. This card feels like an old school Commander card, you know? It just feels like an old school powerhouse. Like, I love cards like this. If you're in the Aristocrat deck, trying to sack your creatures for death triggers, I don't think it gets much better than this. Also, just a really strong answer to board wipes. Again, I would consider it for Carador, but in this case, 5 is probably a little bit too steep for that deck. but I will keep it in my back pocket in case I need it for a future list. Moving on to Assassin's Creed that released July 5th of last year, with the first card being Escarpment Forest? Maybe that's something from the game. I don't know what Escarpment means. For 4 and a white, we get a 3/5 Defender Reach. Other creatures you control get +1/+0. Whenever you attack with 2 or more creatures, draw a card. Again, this feels like an old school card, and I love it. In a token list, this card alone provides a board buff, along with a way to go wide because we have a big 3/5 Defender Reach open to block with, which is nice. On top of that, in a token deck, being a draw engine, because you're going to be swinging with more than 2 stuff all the time. I'd have to play with this card to really see how it feels. I think I would like this thing at 4 CMC. I think it would be a really strong card. I really don't think that would be too pushed. But I got a feeling Arcades might like this thing a lot. And if he's happy, I'm happy. Our next card for Assassin's Creed is one that I had to read a couple times because it's really strong. Surtur Fiery Jotun is 3 and 2 red for a 5/5 trample. Whenever you cast a historic spell, he deals 3 damage to any target. This reads like it could get out of hand, right? Like my Mishra's Baubles shoot you for 3, my Soul Rings shoot you for 3, my Rag Rocks shoot you for 3. As a commander, there you go. There's the list. But as a card, I feel like this could slot into a ton of decks that are based around artifacts, sagas, legendaries, and just cause a ton of work to happen. One of those cards that I really want to put in a deck and make it the win con because I really like it. Our third and final card from Assassin's Creed is Crystal Skull Isu Spyglass. For 2 and 2 blue, we get a legendary artifact. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play historic lands and cast historic spells from the top of your library. Tap it for a blue. This card pairs really nicely with the one we talked about before. So if you're in a Is It Historic deck, there you go. This card's just awesome to me. It's a mana rock plus a playoff top card, which I've learned from playing Falco Spara is extremely powerful with the right amount of luck, which may be why I don't have Falco Spara anymore, because your boy doesn't have that much luck when it comes to RNG in games. But I really like this card, and I'm going to probably pick one up to try it out. And again, I'm going to keep it in my back pocket just in case I need it for a future build. Moving on to Bloomburrow that came out August of last year, with the first card being Byway Bartender, which again, someone on livestream introduced me to. Thank you, whoever that was. I can't quite remember. Byway Bartender is 2 and a red for a 3/3 menace. Already good stats. Whenever you expend 4, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw 2 cards. This card's actually really cool in a super aggressive game plan. Like maybe something like Alesha Who Smiles at Death I might try this in, although it's a 3-drop, but it's also very good in that game plan because you're trying to play a lot of small creatures, which will leave your hand relatively small. So playing your hand completely out to expand 4 to then get a free draw 2 card isn't really out of the question in that deck. Especially in Alesha, the discard is actually pretty good. The next Bloomburrow card on the list is Keen-Eyed Curator. I really like this dude. Just the art, the ability. He's just simple, and I really like it. For 2 green, we get a 3/3. As long as there are 4 or more card types in your graveyard, he gets +4/+4 and gains trample. Yeah, he's a 7/7 with trample if you've got 4 or more card types. Not hard at all to hit by turn 3, by the way. And then you can pay 1 to exile target card from a graveyard. So he's just good stats, honestly. 2 mana, 3/3, scales into a trampler, graveyard removal, a little graveyard removal machine on a stick. This guy's nice. Again, one that I'm considering for Carador. Not even considering, I'm leaning more towards it's going in. I mean, 7/7 Trampler ain't nothing to laugh at. Neither is our final card that I missed from Bloomburrow, being Osteomancer Adept. For 1 and a black, we get a 2/2 Death Touch. You can tap it. Until end of turn, you may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their cost. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. This card rocks. If you need some seriously good recursion in those food decks, look no further. This little dude can supply you with all the reanimation you need on a creature for like no mana, for just sacking a food. It's literally nuts. It also doesn't say the next creature you cast. It's just creatures. So you can just do as many as you want. Moving on to Bloomburrow Commander. There was only 2 cards from this I missed, which is actually pretty shocking for precons. I normally skim over precons, but for this set, it makes sense. I was really excited for Bloomburrow Commander. The first card I missed, though, was Hazel's Brewmaster, which kind of shocks me. For 3 and a black, we get a 3/4 Menace. When it enters or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard and create a food token. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster. I can't tell if that's a centipede or a bunch of bones on her tail. Either way, metal as hell. This card's absolutely nutty, no pun intended. Imagine you're in a Guillaume Master Chef list with a nice 6 pieces of food in play. You got a nice little 6-piece chicken wing in front of you. Then you drop Hazel's Brewmaster, exiling a Deathrite Shaman out of your grave. You've got 6 Deathrite Shamans in play. Fill this in with any creature with an activated ability. Delighted Halfling. Boom. You'll never pay for your commander again. This card is super cool. Again, it's one of those cards that makes me want to make a food deck. This is some good design right here. I like it. The second and final card that I missed from Bloomburrow Commander is Communal Brewing. For 2 and a green, you get an enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, any number of target opponents each draw a card, and you put an ingredient counter on it for each opponent who drew a card this way. Then put a single ingredient counter on it. Then whenever you cast a creature spell, that creature enters with X additional 1/1 counters, where X is the number of ingredient counters on Communal Brewing. Yeah, a 3 mana, my creatures enter with 4 counters on them. Yeah. I really don't have a lot to say. Where can I buy 10 of these? Thank you. Moving on from the friendly little Bloomburrow to the dark and spooky Duskmourne House of Horrors that dropped September 27th of last year. Our first and only card I missed from this set. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. I went back through the set. Apparently, I was really excited for this one too, because I didn't miss anything except for Ghost Vacuum. Ghost Vacuum is 1 for an artifact. Tap it. Exile target card from a graveyard. Pay 6 and tap it. Sacrifice Ghost Vacuum. Put each creature card exiled with Ghost Vacuum into play, under your control, with flying counters on them. Each of them is a 1/1 spirit in addition to their other types. Activate as a sorcery. Besides just being a great piece of graveyard removal to slot into most decks, this thing can also just grab the best ETBs from any graveyard and then just explode into a fiery brimstone of ghouls and ghosts. Imagine you exile Sun Titan, Lorana the Third Path, and like Solemn Simulacrum. Even something as simple as that can turn into us having 3 1/1 tokens with 3 powerful ETBs coming into play on our side. Plus, they have flying, which makes them great attackers and blockers. I'm gonna be honest. This might be one of my new pet cards. I really like this thing. Moving on to Duskmourne House of Horrors Commander, where we only have 2 cards I missed, the first one being Barb Flare Gremlin. For 3 and a red, we get a 3/2 with First Strike and Haste. Whenever a player taps a land for mana, if Barb Flare Gremlin is tapped, that player adds 1 mana of any type that land produced. Then that land deals 1 damage to that player. This is a group slug deck's wet dream. Not only does it accelerate the table into having double land production, which will definitely up the damage output, which is exactly where we want to be in a deck like Xantcha. It also pings people for 1 when they use their lands, which is like the holy grail 2 for 1 in a group slug deck. Pick one up. The second and final card I missed from Duskmourne House of Horrors Commander, Into the Pit is 2 and a black for an enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast spells from the top of your library by sacrificing a non-land permanent in addition to paying its mana cost. No FNAF jokes here, buddy. Just a really freaking good card. This one definitely has a spot in Carador, sacking creatures to play more creatures off top and then bring back the creatures we sacked with Carador. This card might be my favorite card from last year, although one of the cards coming up I think takes that spot, so this is my second favorite card of the year. I am thankful I decided to do this video though, because I cannot believe I missed this card. Super nuts. Definitely picking one up. Moving on to the final set of last year, Foundations was released November 15th of 2024, with our first missed card being Crystal Barricade. Crystal Barricade is 1 and a white for a 0/4 defender. You have hexproof, prevent all non-combat damage that will be dealt to other creatures you control. 1, just a really cool wall. Again, Arcades, here you go. Who's a good boy? Plus, this is easily the walliest wall that's ever walled. It's not even close, providing all sorts of protection for us, our creatures, as well as being a 0/4. Plus, this thing rocks in a Boros deck where you can run Blasphemous Act, as that's just a one-way board wipe. Thank you very much, Crystal Barricade. Our second card of Foundations is Spinner of Souls. For 2 and a green, we get a 4/3 with Reach. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you may reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature card. Put that card into your hand and the rest at the bottom. This is one that I pulled in a pack maybe a week ago. I had no idea it was even in the set. Kind of a big reason I made this video. It's just an evolutionary leap without the steps. It's incredibly strong. And yes, I put it into my Carador deck. I love spiders, man. What can I say? And finally, the last card I missed out of Foundations and the last card I missed from last year, Abyssal Harvest. For 1 and 2 black, we get a 3/2 that you can tap to exile target creature card from a graveyard that was put there this turn. Create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a nightmare in addition to its other types, then exile all other nightmares. Yeah, this thing's nutty, right? Am I overreacting? This is 100% going into Carador. I don't even care that it exiles. It's not even for my stuff. It's for opponents. If I need to use it on one of my toolbox pieces, I will. But just being able to drop a Loran, kill a mere battle sphere that the opponent has, and then take the sphere is simply too good. This is easily my favorite card of the year. Into the Pit, close second. This is my favorite card of the year. I got some real gems this year that I completely missed. Let me know how many of these you guys completely missed that came out last year. If you've got any more that you think were overlooked that came out last year, drop some comments, like, subscribe, share, do all those different actions you guys are able to do. You're sentient. You got fingertips. Move them around. If you like weekly obscure card list or weekly deep dives like this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we're doing them twice a week, baby. That's how we roll. If you want to show some additional support to the channel, you can head over to Patreon like all these people that you're seeing on screen. Thank you very much. With that, I'm going to head out of here and write my next script because that's pretty much all I've been doing. But that's fine because it's freezing cold. I'll see you guys next time.